Heartwarming moment. Waitress discovers hidden billionaire legacy from unexpected Grandma's bill. As the sun began to set, bathing Mabel's diner in a warm glow. It felt like magic, the kind of magic that only small towns could conjure. Sarah, a 32-year-old single mother, ran between tables, her sneakers squeaking on the tile floor as laughter and the mouth-watering aroma of pancakes filled the air. Each day, she fought to balance the demands of work and her two energetic children, the weight of financial struggles pressing down like a heavy blanket. But tonight was different. Mabel, an elderly woman with gentle wrinkles and an unassuming demeanor, lingered over her usual meal, a stack of fluffy pancakes topped with syrup and a side of crispy bacon that made everyone's heart smile. After finishing, she smiled at Sarah with a twinkle in her eye, then shuffled out, her purse swinging at her side. As Sarah cleared the table, she noticed a peculiar bill left behind, barely crumpled. Curiously, she opened it to find a delicate locket tucked within the folds, a beautiful piece adorned with an unfamiliar family crest. At first, Sarah shrugged it off. She had more pressing matters at hand, but a small part of her couldn't shake the thrill of discovery. That night, while her children slept, she used her phone to research the crest. The deeper she dug, the more her heart raced, a web of connections unraveled. It led to a name, a billionaire who had passed away years ago. Mabel, it turned out, had a past that was astounding, yet untouched by greedy hands due to her pride. The truth exploded like a firework as whispers filled the diner over the next few days, tension weaving through the air. Those who had always looked down on Sarah and her co-workers now squirmed uneasily, their long-held prejudices bubbling to the surface. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tensions boiled to the surface during a heated town meeting, where the differences between the wealthy and the working-class citizens erupted in a passionate exchange. The air grew thick with indignation, but Sarah's heart beat fiercely in her chest. With shaking hands, she stood up. We need to remember what truly matters. It's love, loyalty, and the bonds we share, not the numbers in a bank account. Her voice echoed through the hall, striking sparks of connection. Recognition lit up faces amid hurt and anger. As the meeting began to shift, Sarah caught a glimpse of Mabel in the back, her eyes glistening with tears as she rifled through the locket. The weight of the revelation loomed heavy in the room. Would the town choose to embrace Mabel's legacy of kindness or succumb to old prejudices? Sarah's heart raced, but with it came hope, flickering like a candle flickering in the wind. The question hovered in the air, hanging on the edge of resolution and judgment. Would they rise together, or remain chained to misunderstanding? The quiet of the diner felt charged as the meeting adjourned. Sarah stood at the back, her knees weak with adrenaline and solicitude. The mixture of palpable hope and simmering frustration twisted her stomach. She glanced at Mabel, who had not moved from her seat, still clutching the locket tightly. The weight of the world seemed to rest on the elderly woman's narrow shoulders. Did I say too much? Sarah whispered to herself, her fingers brushing against the wooden table, grounding herself as she tried to ignore the anxiety that threatened to swell. She didn't want to stir up old wounds, but this was bigger than her fears. It was a chance at connection, a moment where everyone could put aside their differences, even if just for an evening. That the last few townsfolk exited, Sarah walked over to Mabel, curiosity and concern mingling in her heart. Are you okay? She asked gently. Mabel looked up at her, and for a moment, the world outside the diner seemed to melt away. Mabel's eyes sparkled, revealing a wisdom that came from years of experiencing the ups and downs of life. I never expected anyone to see me, Mabel said, her voice soft yet steady. Or to care. Of course we care. You're part of this community, Sarah urged, feeling a flicker of determination rise within her. You deserve to be heard. Mabel glanced at the locket, the family crest glinting like a secret waiting to be uncovered. This locket holds more than you think, dear. It's not just a piece of jewelry. It connects me to a lineage, a history of love, loss, and dreams that might have gone unfulfilled. Maybe it's time for the world to know, Sarah said, her pulse quickening. The possibilities of discovery spun in her mind. What if Mabel was not just an elderly diner patron, but a vital thread in the fabric of their small town? Just then, Tyler, Sarah's ex-partner, burst into the diner. His eyes scanned the room, eyebrows raised in apparent concern. "Sarah, I've been looking for you." The urgency in his tone pulled her focus away from Mabel. "What's wrong?" There's talk that some people want to sell the diner after learning about Mabel's heritage. They think it can be transformed into something profitable. Her breath caught in her throat. The diner had held so much more than just food and coffee. It was a home, a haven for friendships and shared stories, just like the one Mabel contributed to with every meal. "What?" Fury began to rise inside her. "It's not just about money. Mabel's diner is Sarah," Tyler interjected, his voice softening. "If Mabel's family is out there and there's potential for a fortune, people will only think about that. What could possibly come of this?" The stakes seemed impossibly high. Could they actually lose the diner, their community, their home? Mabel sighed, her eyes filled with understanding and a flicker of something else, courage, maybe? "You know, Sarah, sometimes legacies mean making tough choices." And just like that, with those few words, the weight of the future felt more pressing than ever. The responsibility seemed to rest on her shoulders, as she contemplated not just Mabel's past, but the future of every soul tied to Mabel's diner. As tension built up in the room, Sarah found herself staring into the unknown. With old prejudices challenging new connections, how could they save the diner and truly honor Mabel's legacy? Wait, she thought, an idea sparking in her mind. What if we confront this together? The suggestion hovered at the tip of her tongue, a promise to rally the townsfolk, to share Mabel's story boldly and insistently. But would they listen? As the last light faded outside, Sarah felt the weight of possibility pressing against her heart. How far would she go to fight for Mabel and the diner? And would it be enough? The air was thick with unspoken words as Sarah leaned closer to Mabel. Her mind raced as she thought of the townsfolk, their gossip, and their greed. Would they really consider selling Mabel's diner, her sanctuary, a place steeped in memories? She could imagine the scene, men in suits, throwing money around, eager to transform the old diner into some trendy cafe or boutique. It was an abhorrence she couldn't stand. "Mabel," Sarah began hesitantly, "what if we shared your story? We can gather the community, show them what the diner truly means and how it's connected to you." She watched Mabel's face for a flicker of hope. The elderly woman frowned slightly, her gaze drifting to the locket again. "Sometimes the past is better left buried. Not everyone will appreciate what it represents," she cautioned, her fingers tracing the delicate chain. "But we owe it to you, Mabel, and to everyone who has sat in this diner and found comfort here." Sarah pushed back gently. The world outside seemed darker as shadows danced in the diner, reflecting her concerns. As if sensing her urgency, Tyler stepped closer, leaning against the table. "What do you think, Mabel? Maybe it's time to remind everyone of our history, the sacrifices that built this place." His voice carried a warmth that seemed to fill the room, wrapping around Sarah like a comforting shawl. Mabel studied the two of them, the weight of her locket feeling heavier than ever. "You both have a fire in you," she said slowly. "But can you handle what might come from revealing my lineage? Not everyone sees the value in history or love. It's worth a shot at least." Sarah exclaimed, her heart pounding with determination. "If we can get the townsfolk to see what this diner embodies, maybe they'll think twice about the sale." Just then, a chilling gust of wind blew through the entrance as the door swung open, cutting through the warmth of the diner like a knife. Rebecca, the local real estate agent, waltzed in, confidence radiating off her. She looked around, her sharp eyes darting toward the three standing together. "What's this? A little meeting without me? You know my offer stands, Mabel." For a split second, Mabel looked more fragile than ever. Sarah clenched her fists, the anger boiling within her again. "We're just discussing how important this diner is to all of us, Rebecca. Not everything is for sale." "Oh, but it can be," Rebecca said smoothly, a sly smile on her lips. "You see, Mabel holds something valuable here. It's rather intriguing, isn't it? A history that could be the key to greater things." Sarah felt Tyler tense beside her. "You're trying to manipulate her," he said, his voice low and steady. Rebecca shrugged, unfazed. I'm merely providing an opportunity. Will you truly risk losing this place, all for the sake of nostalgia? She stepped back, her demeanor shifting into something predatory, almost enjoying the tension she created. As she turned to leave, Sarah called out, "We'll fight for this diner, Rebecca." For Mabel's story, you can't have what you don't understand. The door swung closed behind Rebecca, and the diner fell into uneasy silence. Mabel looked at Sarah, her expression a mix of gratitude and fear. Do you think the townsfolk are ready for this? Sarah took a deep breath, fearing she might falter. I believe they deserve to know who you are and what this diner represents. I believe we are stronger together. Mabel's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Then we shall begin, with determination igniting a fire in her chest. Sarah knew one thing. They had to act fast, and everything hung in the balance. And just as Sarah started to outline her plan, a new thought flickered in her mind. What if there were more than just memories tied to the locket? What if it held secrets that could turn their whole world upside down? The night was still young, and the journey ahead was full of uncertainty. But one thing remained clear. Sarah was ready to face whatever came next. Would the townsfolk support them, or would they turn against an old legacy? The answer lay ahead, waiting just around the corner. In the days that followed, Sarah poured herself into planning. Each morning, she arrived at Mabel's diner before the sun peeked over the pines, determined to rally the townsfolk. It became her sanctuary, just as it was for Mabel. The familiar scent of fresh coffee and warm pies wrapped around her, wrapping her in a comforting embrace as she prepped for the fight ahead. One afternoon, Sarah pulled Tyler aside in the kitchen, the clattering of dishes a backdrop to their conversation. We need to host a community gathering, an event to remind everyone what this place means. We can share Mabel's story, and if there is some deeper connection to the diner, we will find it, she proposed, excitement bubbling in her voice. Tyler nodded, his brow furrowing. But how do we get Mabel to open up? What if her past is too painful? We'll be honest, together, Sarah said, her conviction unwavering. She can trust us. The people of this town need to hear her voice. There was a hint of desperation in her words, but also fierce resolve. That evening, as twilight painted the sky, Sarah and Tyler sat across from Mabel, the diner illuminated by the flickering neon sign outside. Warmth filled the room, but Mabel's gaze remained distant, her locket resting heavily against her chest. We really think your story can help save this diner, Sarah urged gently. Please, let us in. A moment of silence weighed upon the table, broken only by the distant hum of traffic. Finally, Mabel sighed, her hands trembling slightly. There is a story, but it's tangled in heartache. As Sarah leaned in, the tension shifted. Mabel's voice was soft yet resolute. My grandmother, Rose, owned this diner long before me. She fought through hardships, but there were secrets. I inherited this locket from her, and it is said to hold a legacy worth more than gold. She paused, hesitating. But it may hurt more than help. What do you mean? Tyler asked, his curiosity piqued. Mabel's eyes filled with memories. Rose was a profoundly kind woman. She believed that love could change the world, but she also hid her past. During the Great Depression, she made choices that still haunt me. Choices? Sarah echoed, feeling the weight of the air. Sacrifices, Mabel said, her voice choking on emotion. People think I just inherited this diner. But her courage came at a cost, and I haven't found the strength to face it. What if my truth only brings more pain? Tears glistened in Mabel's eyes, and Sarah felt her heart ache at the vulnerability before her. But revealing it could become your strength, too, she whispered, wishing to convey every ounce of understanding. We're here for you, to help you and the diner. Soon, it became more than just a plan. It became a mission. They set a date, inviting the townsfolk to gather at the diner for Maple Nights. Posters were hung around town, the excitement palpable as the date approached. But just as Sarah felt emboldened, doubt crept in. What if the townsfolk turned against Mabel? Would they be swept away by Rebecca's cunning charm instead? The night of the gathering arrived, filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. Sarah stood at the diner's entrance, heart racing as people streamed in. Mabel lingered behind, the locket swinging faintly, seemingly pushing her to make a decision. As she turned to encourage Mabel to join her, Rebecca appeared at the window, her figure casting an unsettling shadow that filled Sarah with dread. There she was, all sly confidence and practiced charm, ready to pounce. Do you really think this will end well, sweetheart? Rebecca smirked, her voice cutting through the revelry, sending a chill through Sarah. Or is it time you all learn the truth? With one pivotal moment, everything hung in the balance. Would they be ready to embrace the truth and all its blemishes, or would the darkness that loomed threaten to swallow their hopes? The answer was about to unfold. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she caught sight of Rebecca's piercing gaze. The buzzing laughter around her faded into a distant murmuring. They had worked so hard to bring the community together, and here was Rebecca, wearing her sinister smile like a mask. Everyone deserves to know a good story, Rebecca said, gliding into the diner like she owned the place. Especially the kind that might reveal why we're about to lose something so precious. Panic fluttered within Sarah, but Mabel's quiet presence beside her brought her back to focus. Mabel seemed both fragile and solid at the same time, like the diner itself, steeped in history but at risk of crumbling. "Let us just get through tonight," Sarah whispered, squeezing Mabel's hand. "You're stronger than you think." Mabel nodded, tension easing her features, but the locket still hung heavy, a reminder of the secrets it kept. As they moved deeper into the diner's warmth, Tyler caught Sarah's eye from across the room, reassuring her with a nod. One by one, townsfolk filled the booths, their laughter mingling with the clatter of dishes. Families, couples, and friends settled in, a tapestry of connections woven together in the glow of the diner. Sarah stepped up to the makeshift podium at the center of the room, her nervousness palpable. "Thank you all for coming to Maple Nights," she began, her voice momentarily wavering. "This diner is a part of us, of our stories, our lives. And tonight, we hope to share a piece of that history." She glanced back at Mabel, who stood only a few feet away, still gripping that locket. Taking a deep breath, Sarah continued, "This place has seen laughter and tears, memories and milestones. It's more than just food, it's home." The crowd murmured, nodding in understanding. Mabel finally stepped forward, her silhouette framed in the soft light of the diner, and there was a power in the vulnerability of her stance. "I want to share the truth," she started, her tone steady yet ever so slightly trembling. "About my grandmother, Rose, and our legacy, but I can't do it alone." The room seemed to hold its breath. "Well, isn't that charming?" Rebecca's voice cut in again, lingering like a storm cloud threatening rain. "But dear Mabel, how can you trust the townsfolk with your truth? They can be rather judgmental." Her words hung heavy, casting shadows over Mabel's light. Sarah's stomach twisted. But the townsfolk responded in unison, shaking their heads, murmuring encouragement. "We're here for you, Mabel," one of them shouted. Another added, "You can trust us." The chorus of support sent a jolt of hope through Sarah, reminding her why they were all gathered. As Mabel gazed at the familiar faces, a decision grew in her eyes. Rose once saved this diner through love and sacrifice. She made choices that might not reflect well on her, but those choices built something we can cherish today. I must face that history, no matter how painful. A round of applause erupted, waves of understanding thrumming through the crowd. "Believe me," Rebecca stepped forward, a dark flicker in her eye, "you might want to reconsider before you reveal too much." The tension swelled. Whatever secrets Mabel held seemed to stir something within Rebecca, as if it wasn't just the diner at stake any longer, but the very fabric of their lives. In that electric moment, Mabel unfastened the locket, revealing an exquisite photograph tucked inside, one that glimmered with the weight of generations. "What is that?" Tyler whispered to Sarah, as the air fell thick with anticipation. "I don't know," Sarah replied, heart racing. "But it's going to change everything, I assent it." Mabel paused, and the diner seemed to still. A gasp erupted as the truth they'd been waiting for teetered on the edge, ready to either save or devastate them all. And then it fell open. The photograph slipped from Mabel's fingers, fluttering to the floor like a leaf caught in a breeze. Gasps echoed around the diner as every eye followed it. Mabel's heart raced, a rush of fear and pride intertwined. What would they think? Would the truth bring them together or drive them apart? As if struck by a magnet, Sarah bent down to retrieve the photo. It felt impossibly warm in her hands. Spinning around to face Mabel, she held it high for all to see. "Is this your grandmother?" Mabel stepped closer, nodding slowly. "That's Rose, but there's more." Rebecca's smile wavered, the flicker of uncertainty barely noticeable. The townsfolk leaned in, casting shadows with their eager faces, some whispering tales of Rose's kindness, while others thought back to the shadows surrounding her past. Flashes of memories surfaced in Mabel's mind, her grandmother by the diner's kitchen stove, laughter bubbling alongside the rustic scent of home-cooked meals. She created this place, Mabel disclosed, her voice stronger now, every syllable a brick lifting the weight off her chest. But she also buried her secrets beneath the floorboards of this diner. This locket holds the key. Leaning closer to get a better look, the crowd shifted. The key to what? A voice rang out from the back, laced with curiosity. Mabel hesitated, feeling the heat of Rebecca's scrutiny bearing down on her. It's a legacy, one that has been hidden for far too long. Rose made choices that she thought would protect us. Some were right, some were wrong, but all were born out of love. The room shivered with anticipation. Rebecca took another step forward, crossing her arms defiantly. Is it really love when it leads to secrets? When it puts all of us in jeopardy? What do you know about that? The tension sharpened, the air thick, and Sarah could see Mabel's hands tremble as she clutched the locket tightly. I know my grandmother faced her demons. She dealt with them. I want to do the same. A hush fell over the diner. Mabel glanced at each familiar face, their eyes filled with trust and a spark of shared history. She took a breath, heart racing in time with the ticking clock on the wall. This photo is more than just my grandmother's image. It's a reminder of what can be lost if we don't confront our truths. Tyler took a tentative step forward, only half raising his hand as he spoke up. Mabel, can you just tell us? What is the truth? What did Rose want us to understand? The diners nodded, a wave of support cascading through each booth, urging Mabel to go on. Her breath came in shaky waves as she finally said, Rose wasn't just a waitress. She was connected to a family that once owned this diner. A wealthy family that was lost to time but who, unknowing to us, had set aside a fortune to ensure this place thrived. Rebecca's face darkened. Why should we believe you? Old stories can twist like the wind. The murmur of unity brushed through the diner again. We trust you, Mabel. Came another cry. Mabel bit her lip, her mind spinning. As Rebecca's gaze locked onto hers, the threat was palpable. They all instinctively knew that these words held the power to mend or shatter. Would she risk everything to reveal the full history? What would it mean for not only her, but for the diner and all its patrons, especially her beloved community? Mabel unfastened the locket further, revealing a second compartment. The photo was just the beginning. She hesitated, then turned it towards Sarah. This isn't just a picture. It holds a document, a will that ties us all together in ways we haven't yet imagined. Her voice faltered, but the spark in her eyes remained. What lay ahead could reshape their understanding forever. And before she took another breath to continue, a crash echoed from outside, cutting through the weight of revelations. Everyone turned, eyes wide in shock. What now? Sarah whispered, her heart pounding, sensing they were on the brink of something vast and uncontrollable. The night wasn't done with its secrets yet. Mabel's heart thundered. The crash sounded like glass shattering, each shard of sound piercing through the electric moment. She could feel the curiosity and dread swirling in the diner, the faces of her friends and neighbors shifting from anticipation to concern. Stay here, she called out instinctively, her voice sharp and commanding amidst the growing murmur of the crowd. As she moved toward the door, the din of voices rose behind her, questions spilling into the air. What was that? Did someone fall? Sarah reached out, gripping Mabel's arm. Wait, don't go alone. Her voice trembled just enough to show she was worried. But Mabel shook her head, a mix of determination and fear igniting her steps. Once outside, she blinked in the sudden brightness of headlights sweeping across the parking lot. A small crowd had gathered, breaths held in unison. Standing in the midst of them was a dark vehicle, the source of the noise, its rear end dented where it had collided with the diner's signpost. Mabel. Tyler's call broke through, his presence suddenly grounding. She turned to see him push past the anxious townsfolk, determination chasing worry across his face. Are you okay? I'm fine, she replied, but her thoughts raced. What if this was connected to the secret of the locket? What would Rose do? As they approached the damaged vehicle cautiously, a man stumbled from the driver's side. He appeared disheveled, hair askew, breathing heavily as if he had just run a marathon. His clothes looked expensive but were wrinkled, and something flickered in his eyes. Panic? Intensity? No one knew what to expect. "I am sorry," he stammered, glancing nervously between the diner and the group. "I didn't mean to. I'm here for the legacy." Silence swept through the gathering like a gust of wind, and Mabel felt every eye fixate on him. "What do you mean?" she asked, her gaze unwavering, though her heart raced. Part of her felt this collision was no accident. The universe had a way of bringing truths to light. "The estate," he said, running a hand through his hair. My name is Mark. I'm here on behalf of the family that once owned this diner. I just found out everything is tied to me. I need to speak to you, Mabel." Gasps erupted around them, disbelief coloring the murmurs that followed. Rebecca narrowed her eyes, skepticism etched on her face. "How do we know you're telling the truth?" Mark stepped forward, vulnerability layered with something deeper, as he glanced into Mabel's eyes. "Because your grandmother was the one who fought for this diner. The fortune it was always meant for you. All of you. This is your home, your legacy. But there are conditions." Mabel's breath caught in her throat, words boiling beneath the surface. Was this what Rose had intended? The thought flooded her with a mix of hope and doubt, the weight of responsibility settling squarely on her shoulders. "What conditions?" she demanded, every heart in the group hanging on her words. That he held up his hands, shaking slightly. "I can explain everything. There's a lot at stake. I didn't expect the timing. I didn't mean for this to happen here." And as Mark stood there, the night seemed poised on a knife's edge, the gravity of the moment sinking in. Could this new twist bring them closer or tear apart the only family they knew? The crowd shifted, and the questions multiplied in Mabel's mind faster than she could voice them. But before she could push him for answers, a loud thump echoed from inside the diner, breaking the moment, an unsettling reminder that hidden truths were still circling, waiting patiently to be unveiled. "Mabel," someone shouted urgently from within. "You have to come back. It's happening." Mabel's resolve solidified. Whatever was ahead required her to face not only her grandmother's past, but this new stranger's intentions, changing everything she believed to be true. Her heart raced, knowing answers awaited her in the diner. But she also felt the weight of countless lives intertwined in this legacy, the community's fate hanging in the balance. As she turned to re-enter the diner, Mark's voice called after her. "Please, Mabel, your grandmother's legacy is at stake." An undeniable urgency filled the air. She had no idea what would happen next. But one thing was certain, the truth was far from over. The diner felt alive with tense anticipation as Mabel rushed back inside. The familiar scent of coffee and baked goods twisted with the adrenaline pumping through her veins, creating an intoxicating mix of warmth and anxiety. The moment she crossed the threshold, she scanned the room, searching for the source of that urgent call. The usual chatter had fallen into stunned silence, and she could see a small cluster of townsfolk gathered protectively around the small stage at the back of the diner, where every local performer had made their mark. It was there that she spotted Sarah, her face white with worry, pointing toward the dusty, open piano where a strange light flickered dangerously. "What is happening?" Mabel called, urgency giving her voice a charged edge. "It's the piano," Sarah exclaimed, her eyes wide. It had started playing all on its own. Mabel's heart sank. Rose had always told tales of the old piano, saying it held stories and secrets waiting to be uncovered. If it was indeed playing by itself, it could only mean something had awakened, something tied to the family legacy Mark spoke of. She stepped forward as the low, haunting melody swelled in the air around her. It wrapped around her like fog, dense and overwhelming. Standing before the old instrument, she felt her heart begin to align with each note, as if some part of Rose's spirit was reaching out from beyond, urging her to listen closely. "Stop it," a voice shouted, breaking the spell. It was Rebecca, her fists clenched at her sides. "This is ridiculous. We're not falling for this old legend. Let her be." "Rebecca," Tyler stepped in, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "If there is something here we need to know." Mabel took a deep breath and leaned closer to the piano. The air pulsed with energy and invitation, a challenge. She could feel the weight of history hanging in the air. Pressing her fingers to the keys, the notes seemed to vibrate, pulsing back in agreement. The melody shifted. A phantom tune echoed a song Rose had hummed while baking. The memory rushed back as if she were a child again, laughter mixing with the aroma of cinnamon. Mabel closed her eyes, allowing herself to sink into the moment, trusting that it guided her through uncertainty. "Listen," she said softly. "It wants us to hear something Rose left behind." The crowd quieted further, curiosity easing their skepticism. Just then, Mark stepped forward hesitantly. "What if the piano is connected to the conditions I mentioned? Your grandmother fought to keep the diner. But what if she also concealed a message for you?" As the last note hung in the air, Mabel felt a connection form between the strangers in the room. Everyone shared that same yearning hope, fear, and the unyielding need for answers pulsing through them all. "Help me find out what she wanted," Mabel pleaded, locking eyes with Mark. "Send word to the family. If there's a legacy, we should face it together." As the crowd began to murmur agreement, a soft, crackling sound suddenly interrupted like the unexpected rustle of a page turning. Mabel turned toward the dim corner of the diner where the old jukebox stood, its lights flickering to life. And then, the unmistakable sound of a familiar voice filled the air, gentle yet assertive. "Dear Mabel," it began, "if you are hearing this, it means the time has come." Mabel's breath caught in her throat, her heart racing with a fierce mix of fear and exhilaration. What revelations lay ahead? What connection did her grandmother's words have to the legacy unraveling before her? But before she could process more, the jukebox cut out abruptly, and silence enveloped the diner. One question seeped through the collective consciousness like a thick fog. Were they truly ready to uncover the depth of the past? As quiet overtook the room, Mabel's heart raced once again, the weight of historical revelations poised just beyond the horizon. What did she mean? Mark's question lingered in the air, a thread hanging delicately, begging for resolution. Mabel had no answers, but one thing was clear: the next moment could change everything. Mabel stood frozen, the silence heavy and charged. Her mind raced with possibilities. What secrets could Rose have left behind? The jukebox, having whispered what felt like a direct plea, had now extinguished its light and sound, leaving behind a haunting void. It felt like a prelude to something monumental. "Hey," Sarah murmured, breaking the tension. "What if we just take a look around? Maybe she left something behind. A clue or something." Her voice wavered slightly, but determination anchored it. Mabel turned to see the eagerness in Sarah's eyes reflecting her own urgency. "Yes, let us search. There must be something." Tyler stepped back slightly, sensing the shift in energy. "All right, but let us be careful. Whatever this is, it could have ties we aren't prepared for." Unable to resist, Mabel approached the old jukebox. The worn surface felt cool beneath her fingers. It felt like a portal to another time, each scratch and scuff a story of its own. Mark moved beside her, examining the contraption with a furrowed brow. "Normally, I wouldn't be one to believe in this stuff," he said, leaning in. "But the way this is unfolding, it feels real." Mabel nodded, her heart thrumming in her chest. "Whatever it is, it matters to us. We owe it to her to uncover the truth." She turned her focus back to the jukebox. The carvings on the edges caught her eye. Tiny, almost hidden symbols danced along the edge. Words that felt familiar, yet tantalizingly out of reach. Could these symbols have meaning? "We should document this," Mark suggested, pulling out his phone. "If there's a message, we may need evidence of it." As he took pictures, Mabel felt a rush of hope. Maybe this was the spark they needed to ignite the truth. "Let us check under the stage," Rebecca interjected suddenly, her tone softening from earlier. "If there's something amiss, it could be hidden where no one thinks to look." Mabel couldn't help but marvel at the transformation in Rebecca. Where there had been skepticism, now there was curiosity, a shared commitment flickering to life among them all. As they gathered around the stage, the air was electric, each breath filled with anticipation. Mabel crouched down, peering into the shadows. Dust motes danced in the low light, and she felt the chill of history pressing in so close. "That's it," Sarah exclaimed suddenly, pointing toward a shadowy nook beneath the piano. "What's that?" With a shuddering breath, Mabel reached into the small crevice. Her fingers grazed against something solid and smooth. Pulling it out, she revealed an old, leather-bound journal, riddled with creases and markings. "It's Grandma Rose's," Mabel whispered, disbelief flooding her senses. The collective silence returned, this time weightier. It felt as if the very walls of the diner held their breath, urging them to delve deeper. I can't believe it, Sarah echoed, her eyes wide. Open it. Mabel's fingers shook as she carefully pried the journal open. The pages were yellowed, filled with Rose's familiar handwriting. Each graceful loop felt like a warm embrace. Then Mabel's eyes landed on the first entry. To my dearest Mabel, she read aloud, her voice quivering with emotion. The words flowed like memories made present again, and the diner seemed to envelop her in the echoes of shared warmth and love. I can't believe she'd leave something like this for you, Tyler murmured, gently pushing the edge of the curiosity. Curiosity melding with doubt settled over the group. But what is it really about? Mark mumbled, straining to see the next pages. As Mabel continued reading, the world outside faded into the background. The journal hinted at connections she had never imagined, secrets tied to the diner, the legacy her grandmother fought for. A map sketched at the end made her breath hitch, a tangible link to something beyond just memories, a treasure locked away, waiting for the right moment, waiting for them. Let us keep going, Mabel finally said, her voice steady now, filled with newfound hope. There's even more to uncover. But as she flipped the page, a loose document slipped out, landing with a soft thud on the floor. The moment hung thick. What was it? Was it the missing puzzle piece that could change everything? Mabel, what is that? Sarah gasped as they all leaned in. A mixture of excitement and trepidation painted across their faces. With a shaky breath, Mabel lifted the document, glancing at Mark, who locked eyes with her, and she knew this would be the moment that defined their paths. What if this reveals the truth behind everything? Her mind raced with the possibilities. Would they dare to find out more? Would uncovering all of Rose's hidden truths bind them even closer together? As she prepared to read the hidden note, a shiver of fear danced along her spine. What if the truth was more than they were ready for? And there it was, lying just beneath the surface. What they found could change their lives forever. Mabel's heart hammered as she held the document, every muscle urging her to turn it over. She glanced around at the faces, anxiety mingling with hope, and the air seemed to pulse with an unspeakable promise. Whatever it is, Mark said softly, we're in this together. Mabel nodded, gathering her breath. All right, she flipped the parchment, the weight of history heavy on her fingertips. The text unveiled itself, words flowing like water over stones, revealing a hidden family tree. This is it, she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. It shows connections to a fortune belonging to my family directly tied to the diner. Gasps rippled through the group, echoing off the walls like a chorus of disbelief mixed with excitement. But there's more, Mabel continued, her pulse racing. It says that to claim it, we must unite the community, honoring the values my grandmother held dear. A murmur of realization swept through the crowd, glimmers of understanding flickering in their eyes. Mabel felt vibrant energy at the brink of something monumental. This is our chance. If we stand together, we can protect this legacy. It's not just about the money. It's about the love that built this place. But Rebecca stepped forward, brow knitted. And what if they turn on us when they find out? Wealth can taint even the best of intentions. A wave of murmurs responded to her words, a hesitation brewing. So many faces, caught between the weight of love and the fear of betrayal. But Mabel felt a stranger in her heart, a fierce defiance rising up, anchored by the realization that this wasn't just about her. If we keep it hidden, that's where the real betrayal lies. Rose believed in connection, in sharing our stories. We must take a risk to honor her. One murmured voice found its echo in the rest. We still stand together. Mabel shot a glance at Sarah, who smiled back with fierce determination. No more hiding. We'll show everyone what this diner really means, and what it can become. The crowd erupted into cheers, voices mingling in a cacophony of resolve. Even Rebecca seemed to soften slightly, allowing a small smile to creep onto her face. Mabel turned back to the document, feeling the warmth of the group bolster her resolve as she read on. Details of a long-lost ancestral home surfaced, a hidden gem poised to complement the diner's legacy. We have to discover where this leads. It could rebuild our community, not just with money, but with shared memories. With that, a sense of unity enveloped everyone gathered. They were no longer just patrons and workers of Maple's diner, but a collective force rooted in love, history, and purpose. As the night deepened, they set to work. Joy sparked in every conversation as they brainstormed plans to reclaim not just the diner, but the legacy that came with it. They would honor Mabel's grandmother, highlighting the stories that echoed through every booth and corner of the diner. Later that week, they held a town meeting, brimming with excitement. Mabel addressed the crowd, her heart soaring with the weight of their dreams combined, rallying everyone to participate in the new venture, a community festival celebrating their history and Mabel's discoveries. Mark found his place beside her, encouraging her every word. This could be the turning point. Our community needs a chance to rebuild and honor the values we've lost. Doubts melted like morning fog as the townsfolk shared their own stories tied to the diner, new friendships forming over tales of kindness and lessons learned. And with each shared laugh, every smile ignited a thread connecting them back to the warmth of the diner, a shared heartbeat uniting them all. Months passed, and the festival day arrived. Colorful banners fluttered beneath the blue sky. Laughter filled the air, the essence of community thriving like never before. Once again, the diner brimmed with customers, but this time, there was a renewed significance in every meal shared. Mabel looked around, full of emotion, overwhelmed by the transformation around her. She saw Rebecca working beside her, enthusiasm replacing any former skepticism. The diner was more than a home. It was a lifeline, a place where walls broke down and hearts connected. As the sun set, painting the diner in hues of gold and orange, Mabel raised a toast. To our stories, to the bonds of love that protect us. Here's to our legacy rising like the beautiful sun. Cheers erupted, the energy electrifying as every townsperson lifted their glasses, celebrating together as a single family. And as her heart swelled, Mabel felt her grandmother's presence wrap around her like a warm hug, whispering words of pride and love. They had indeed found solid ground to stand on, fighting together for something far greater than mere wealth, a true treasure rooted in heart, unity, and the warmth of community. The truth had transformed them. This was just the beginning. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe right now to not miss out on the next epic story. Leave a like now to make a real difference for our channel. Comment below your feelings about this incredible journey and how you can relate to Mabel's story. And don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and feel the power of connection.